This is a story about a scruffy 8-year-old boy and his fierce dragon. Once upon a time, in a land not too far away, there was an 8-year-old kid named Finn. He wasn't your typical 8-year-old, though. You see, Finn had messy brown hair that stuck out at odd angles like a startled hedgehog, mismatched socks, and a permanent smudge of dirt on his face. His clothes were always torn, and his face was usually scratched up from head to toe. He looked like he hadn't had a proper bath in weeks, which wasn't too far from the truth. And if that wasn't enough to make him an outcast, he smelled like stale cheese and dirty socks, so it didn't help. Most people would have labeled him a dirty, smelly orphan who picked his nose with his chronically dirty hands, but they wouldn't have been completely right. You see, Finn wasn't an orphan, but he might as well have been because no one wanted to adopt him. Not because he was dirty, although that didn't help, but because he could talk to animals. It wasn't just any animals either. All the wildlife in the area, birds, squirrels, field mice, rabbits, foxes, badgers, hedgehogs, newts, and toads seemed to gather around Finn wherever he went. People found this unnatural and rather creepy. In fact, most people thought he was some kind of wizard or witch and kept their distance from him and his menagerie. But all of this changed when a monster started killing livestock in the village, and people had nothing else to blame but Finn. They accused him of turning into a wolf or a fox or a badger and preying on other animals in the night. So Finn ran away, along with all the animals who followed him, of course. They all ran away to the Whispering Woods, where no human could follow. Finn wandered through the woods for what felt like hours, hiding behind trees, jumping over logs, until suddenly the forest opened up into a clearing, and in front of him sat a magnificent sight. There was a lake in the middle of the clearing, surrounded by white sand and pebbles and crystal-clear water. The sun was shining, the sky was blue, and a cool breeze rustled through the leaves. It was paradise. But paradise was quickly shattered when something big pounced out of the lake and landed on the ground in front of Finn. It was a dragon. A real live dragon. It had emerald green scales, huge wings, sharp teeth and claws, and eyes that burned like hot coals. It let out a loud hiss and took a step forward, and Finn was sure he was going to be chopped up into little pieces and eaten. But then something weird happened. The dragon dropped to its knees before him and lowered its head. Then it spoke. "Greetings, Finn, son of Amara," the dragon boomed. "I am Ignis, your protector. I have been waiting for you." Confused, Finn asked, "Waiting for me? But why?" Ignis replied, "Because you are the last of the Whisperers, a bloodline of powerful wizards whose magic comes from their ability to speak to animals. Your mother, Amara, was killed by humans who feared your family's power. They thought they could destroy your bloodline by killing your parents and you. But they only succeeded in killing your mother. I was there that night, and I brought you to safety. For the past 8 years, I've been hiding you away, protecting you, and keeping you safe, waiting for the day you would come to me and claim your birthright." It took a few seconds for Finn to process what Ignis had told him. He had a birthright. He was a wizard. He could do magic. And he had a dragon. His own personal dragon. "But why are you telling me this now? Why did you bring me here?" Ignis replied, "Because your presence is needed, Finn. People are being attacked in the village. Livestock is being slaughtered, and the queen is asking for your help." At first, Finn didn't want to go back. He'd rather stay in the woods with Ignis than go back to the village and face the villagers' hatred. But after thinking it through, he decided he had to do something. After all, the people weren't attacking the animals. They were only defending themselves against the monsters in the night. And besides, Finn knew he couldn't hide forever. Eventually, he'd have to face the music. So Finn and Ignis set off toward the village. As they flew over the trees, Finn saw that the Whispering Woods gave way to rolling hills and valleys, sparkling rivers and streams, and quaint little cottages nestled among the trees. It was beautiful, and yet there was something eerie about it. like a funeral dirge played softly on the wind, like the trees themselves were crying. When they arrived at the village, it was eerily silent. There were no children playing, no dogs barking, no chickens clucking. The place was deserted. Finn and Ingress landed in the center of town and walked toward the castle. That's when they saw them, two men hanging from the gallows. They were both farmers, and their faces were contorted in silent screams. "What happened to them?" Finn asked a nearby crow. The crow hopped closer and whispered, "They were the last ones left. When the sun went down, a monster came and took them away. No one knows what monster it was, but whoever it was big and strong, because nothing has ever been seen since." Suddenly, a woman emerged from behind the corner of a building. She was tall and regal, with flowing red hair and emerald green eyes. She introduced herself as the Queen and explained how her knights had tried to stop the monster, but it was too strong for them. "It killed 2 of my knights and injured the rest," she said. "They're afraid to go out now. They think the monster will strike again when the sun sets." Ignis boomed. "Do not worry, Your Majesty. We shall stop this monster once and for all." The Queen nodded gratefully and led them to the stables where the remaining knights were hiding. They were armed with swords and shields and spears, but none of them wanted to use them. "There's no point in fighting," one of the knights said. "We can't win. The monster is too strong." Ignis growled. "Nonsense. There's always a way to win if you know where to look." Then he turned to Finn. "Now, Finn, it's time for you to do your part." Ignis led them all to the edge of town, where a river flowed over smooth stones. "Here's where we begin our search," he said. "The monster must live somewhere around here. We just need to find its lair." Suddenly, a small brown mouse scurried across the path in front of them. "Excuse me," said Ignis. "Can you lead us to the monster's lair? We wish to speak with it." The mouse hesitated, then nodded and led them deeper into the forest. As they followed the mouse, the trees grew darker and more twisted, and the air grew colder and damper. Soon, they came to a large clearing. In the middle of the clearing stood a rotting log cabin. Vines and ivy crawled up its walls, and moss and mildew covered its roof. It looked abandoned and dangerous. "This is it," Ignis said. "The mouse must have lived here." Then he turned to the knights. "You stay here and keep guard. If the monster comes out, strike it down." Then he turned to Finn. "Come with me, son. It's time to end this." They crept up to the cabin and knocked on the door. A moment passed, then another, and then the door creaked open. A low voice said, "Who's there?" "We come in peace," Ignis called out. "We only wish to speak with the creature that lives here." The door opened wider, and a pair of glowing red eyes peered out. "Speak with me," a raspy voice said. "Speak with me, and I shall grant you eternal darkness." A tall, shadowy figure stepped out of the cabin. It was cloaked in darkness, and its features were obscured by a hood. "Speak with me," the figure hissed. "Speak with me, and I shall grant you eternal darkness." Suddenly, Finn stepped forward and ripped off the figure's hood. It was a woman. Her face was pale and gaunt, her eyes were hollow, and she was dressed in rags. "Speak with me," she rasped. "Speak with me, and I shall grant you eternal darkness." And that's the end of part 1. Will Finn defeat the evil sorceress? Or will she cast him and Ignis into eternal darkness? Find out next time on the adventures of Finn and Ignis, the Scruffy Kid and his fiery dragon. Bye for now.